I want to bring in North Carolina Congressman Mark Walker, who sits on that committee for Homeland Security. Congressman, thanks for stopping in.
Thanks, Patrick.
All right, Secretary Nielsen is the highest ranking official yet to testify on this issue. Now, she says that the border security system is severely strained, as we've been reporting. What did you learn today? What did you learn that might be new to you and your Republican colleagues in her testimony?
Well, one specific number that jumped out at me, and something that I asked her specifically on, is the reason this can be really described as a crisis, a humanitarian crisis, one that is very dangerous, is the amount of numbers that we've seen jump just in the last few years. Under the Obama administration, go back to 2013 when the Homeland Security under Jay Johnson, since that time, the amount of illegal migrant traffic that we've seen at the border has jumped 573%. In fact, the first 4 months of the fiscal year 2019 that starts in October through February, we're at 99,000. All of fiscal year 2018 was right at 100, 105, 107,000. This is a growing potential issue. We've seen it from the trafficking, we've seen it from the smuggling. That's why she is not only has every right, but the data shows this is a crisis. This is a national emergency.
And Congressman, I want to go back to your line of questioning today with Secretary Nielsen. You asked her if she were aware of any of this crisis at the border before becoming the DHS Secretary a couple of years ago, and she said she was not aware. Take a listen to that, and then I want to get your thoughts.
Do you think most Americans truly understand how dangerous this situation is?
I do not, no.
If most Americans had a chance to go to the border, would they consider this a crisis?
Yes, sir, just by the pure numbers coming in and our inability of the system to properly take care of them.
All right, so out of sight, out of mind when it comes to those who deny that there's a crisis at the border. Is that the point there?
That's exactly the point, and that includes the handful of Republican senators who are trying to find some wiggle room to refrain from making the vote that protects the security and the safety of Americans. Listen, if you look at the amount of drugs, if you look at the amount of the human trafficking, even numbers beyond the DHS, if you were able to reduce it a little bit, would you not say that this is an emergency? Would you not say that a structure is very crucial at this particular point? I believe most of our viewers who are willing to take any kind of look from a logical common sense would agree not only this is a crisis, but also agree with this point that Congress has failed in its job to do their job, which is secure the border.
And one of those numbers you're referring to, Congressman, is more than 76,000 migrants crossed the border last month. That's more than double the number from that same time last year. So, and those are, again, according to reports. But to your knowledge, does complete wall construction rely on this emergency declaration by the president that will more than likely get tied up in the courts? Or is there another way? Are you worried about his declaration getting tied up in the courts? You know, let's say he vetoes, let's say if Republican senators go against his declaration and it goes to his desk. He vetoes it, then it gets tied up in the courts. So what then? What are the conversations that you're having to prepare for that?
Well, we have to understand that that is a potential outcome of some of this. But to your first part of your question, it does not prevent us from moving directly on the $1.3 billion that has been authorized and appropriated to begin this process. Do we need additional dollars? 5.7 is what the people at the border have told us that they're involved with this, who have a better understanding instead of D.C. bureaucracies. We ultimately need that number. We hope that eventually it could get to the Supreme Court, where we feel like that they would make the best decision for the American people.
All right, and I want to switch gears quickly here. You will be pushing for an amendment to prohibit ballot harvesting, something that has run rampant in election fraud cases in states like California and, of course, in your home state of North Carolina. But your thoughts on this Democrat-led For the People Act. Your colleague Jim Jordan says it should be called For the People Who Want Democrats to Have a Permanent Majority Act. What are your thoughts on this H.R. 1?
Yeah. Listen, I've been around here a little more than 4 years. If this isn't the worst bill I've seen, it's in the top 3 to 5. The fact that you would require taxpayers to pay for these crazy, stupid campaign ads that you see on TV, that the government would fund the candidates at a 6-to-1 ratio, that means if Nancy Pelosi raises $100,000, the other $500,000, the government would require the taxpayers to pay that. This is absolutely ludicrous, and not only that, it challenges or infringes upon your First Amendment. When the ACLU is even saying, hey, Democrats, you need to back off on this one, yet they still push forward, that's a huge issue. Specifically on the ballot harvesting, when you have anybody, friends, families, associates, somebody who may or may not be connected with your campaign that is going around picking up, quote, absentee ballots and dropping them off the day of the election, if that doesn't concern people, a lot of people around here talk about voter integrity. That right there is a precursor to be able to play in, and we saw even in California a lot of questionable activity through these absentee ballots, through the collection or ballot harvesting as we call it.
And finally, Congressman, we saw it derail that election in the 9th District there in North Carolina with some election fraud that occurred. But how do you police something like ballot harvesting? Is there a way to police that?
Well, there is. You make sure that the absentee ballots are postmarked and only signed off by the individual that's voting. What's illegal in North Carolina is perfectly legal in California. This is crazy that you have a different set of rules, specifically in California, and not just California, but a few other states. It needs to be done better, and it needs to have voter integrity to make sure that that vote is only being cast or dropped off by the citizen, by the American who's actually casting that vote.
All right, seems pretty simple. Congressman Mark Walker, as always, thank you for your time, sir.
Want to see more videos like this? Click on the link below and subscribe to One American News on YouTube, and call your cable provider and kindly demand that One American News is added to your lineup. Call and subscribe today.